Welcome to this Rulefinder tutorial. In this video we're going to look at what Rulefinder has to offer. At its very simplest, Rulefinder will give you access to standards. You can view them as a PDF if you simply want to confirm some text, but Rulefinder does so much more. Rulefinder doesn't offer every standard in the Library of British Standards. Instead, it offers packages of standards targeted at specific users. So at its launch, Rulefinder included standards for those dealing with the European Recreational Craft Directive. Subsequently, Rulefinder has added packages of standards for those dealing with the Pressure Equipment Directive, specifically with respect to refrigeration equipment. More packages will be added in time. As well as standards, Rulefinder includes guidelines. These are the guidelines issued to support the legislative area that the package of standards relates to. So, for example, if you are a refrigeration manufacturer, you are interested in the Working Party guidelines issued by the European committees that discuss the interpretation of the standards and legislation of the Pressure Equipment Directive. Likewise, in the marine world, you would be interested in the rulings issued by the RSG group, which is the group of notified bodies and other interested parties who meet to discuss the interpretation of the Recreational Craft Directive and their supporting standards. And of course you can trust Rulefinder to be right up to date. Not only are the documents up to date, but Rulefinder will show you the dates they were published, if it's a standard, the date that they became harmonized or designated, and it will also show you when the previous edition of the standard lost its harmonized status, thereby making the new one a mandatory standard. As well as making available the PDF copies of the raw standards, the team at Rulefinder have completely rewritten all the standards and guidelines and interlinked them. This makes for a very powerful research tool. Of course, where a standard makes a reference to another standard or to another clause within that standard, that link will be live in Rulefinder. But the links in Rulefinder we call intelligent hyperlinks. What does that mean? Well, you'll know that feeling of a link being proposed and not being sure whether that link is going to be relevant for your purpose. Do you want to leave the page and have to reload and come back? Or is it the page you actually need? Well, in Rulefinder, when you click a link, a window pops up with a synopsis of what that link is all about. So you can decide for yourself whether you want to follow that lead without having to leave the page you're on. In fact, if that link has a link again inside it, you can pop up another window and you can follow all the links in the chain before you leave your page. Better still, if you do leave your page and you want to come back to it, Rulefinder has been programmed so that all the pages you viewed are kept in memory during that visit. And that means you can go back down the chain to where you started without having to reload. So it's instant. And so you can move backwards and forwards freely through the chain, researching the point of interest. Rulefinder doesn't only have links between standards and within standards. Perhaps more interesting are the links the Rulefinder team have added to the guidance notes from within standards and within legislation. So where the Rulefinder team of technical experts have identified that a guidance note may be relevant to a specific clause of a standard, these are programmed into Rulefinder to offer you some background detail to help make your interpretation of that standard. It's worth knowing that the team behind Rulefinder are themselves engineers working in the field of compliance, so their wealth of experience is offered to users of Rulefinder. So let's recap. Rulefinder will give you basic access to the PDFs of standards if you just want to see the raw text. It'll also provide you with guidelines. All these documents will be up to date, and they will all be linked together with Rulefinder's intelligent hyperlinks, allowing you to browse upwards and downwards a chain of information without having to commit to leaving a page until you're sure you want to follow the link. And if you do want to come back to where you started, there's no reloading time. It's all instant.